Forgiveness. Forgiveness is very difficult. It can be very hard to forgive somebody because of what they've done to you, or what you've allowed to have happen over the years. And so when it comes to forgiveness, it's one of those things that you truly have to work on. It's the emotions are high, but the actions are what's important. And by your actions is what will dictate if you really have forgiven somebody. So I remember when everything was going on with my ex and I, and the infidelity took place. It was really hard for me to forgive her for what happened because I was so consumed on what happened. Like, that was my focus. It was just like, how could you do this to me? How in the world could this happen like this? And it hurt so bad because I trusted her. I trusted the other person too. But after all that, it still happened anyways. And so having to learn how to forgive somebody takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. But I will say this, it is extremely possible to do. So I want to help you understand how to learn how to forgive your ex after she cheated on you. So the one thing that you really have to focus on is you have to focus on yourself and not her. I know, like, what? But she did X, Y, and Z and all these different things. You're right, she did. But the one thing I want to ask you, were you perfect in your marriage? Were you perfect? The answer is always going to be no. You know this. But what ends up happening is people justify the level of like sin differently. If you didn't take care of your wife, if your wife's been talking to you, telling you her feelings, and you decided not to listen to them or not really make it a point to cater to those things, the writing was almost on the wall. If you're not making love deposits into your wife, someone else is. And if someone else is making love deposits into your wife, then you are making withdrawals from her. And what I mean by that is your whole goal as a husband is to deposit as many love points as you can into her so that she is overflowing with love, knowing that it's coming from you. But women and wives tend to see a lot of husbands who are withdrawing from their love account. So then when the times get really difficult, they don't feel any love from their husbands. So what ends up happening is the wives will start to share how they're feeling, right? For them, the one thing that's very important to them is stability. Financial stability is like number one, but emotional stability would be just up there too. And so if they start sharing to you about money and things that are going on in the house and those things just aren't happening, she's going to start to feel some type of way. And then emotionally, she will start to share with you those things as well too. So these are always areas that we can work on and focus on and find ways to be better. So when it comes to this part, this is why I say you have to look back at yourself. Look back over the things that you weren't perfect on as a husband, right? I did. I know it was really hard for me, but after I spent some time at counseling, I really started thinking about the areas of my life that I wasn't there for her. And I mean, like, I'm sorry, it's kind of warm in here. My air conditioning's not working, so another story. But all the times that I wasn't there for her, all the times that she had been trying to share with me what's on her heart, what's on her mind, and I'm not giving her everything that she really needs because I'm still in my feelings. I'm still feeling selfish. I'm still wondering, why are you not meeting the needs that I have? Why are you not taking care of the things that I'm looking for? Why are you not addressing those things? Why is it about you all the time? And that's the problem that happens in marriage. Everybody starts to get very selfish. right? So you got to look at that. You were just as selfish as she was being. So when she went out and cheated, that was a very selfish move. But it doesn't mean that you weren't selfish along the way somewhere, not just once, not just twice, but a number of times that you know you weren't meeting her need in some area. Is a wife going to go and just cheat on her husband after he's doing everything right? I mean, I don't know. If you got a gold digger wife, maybe. But for the most part, you got a good, loving wife who just care about you and you're giving into her, pouring into her. She ain't going to be looking for anything else. So that's why I would say the biggest thing that you can do is to look inside yourself. Focus on the things that you can do better as a person, not what you can do in your marriage. Because if it's over, right? If you want to go get her back, well, then this will be the area that you would start focusing on you. And even if you're not trying to get her back, you should be focusing on you because there might be someone out there who's looking for someone like you, but the new version, not the one who's still blaming everybody else for everything that happened. I do not blame my ex anymore for anything that happened in our last relationship. Why? Because I was a knucklehead. I was very hard headed, very stubborn, very selfish. I was just kind of mean, and now I can look back and say, okay, this is why marriage, it is equal parts. You know what I mean? Like, she wasn't perfect, I wasn't perfect. She didn't meet my needs in certain areas, I didn't meet her needs in certain areas. But when I sat there and focused on her as the problem, then it took longer for me to heal and get myself together. And that's why I say we got to focus on ourselves. What can you do to right your wrongs? What can you do to improve? You're not superhuman. You're not Superman with no kryptonite issues. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have problems, and those are things that have to be worked out. So this is how you start to forgive her, by looking at yourself and starting to really look and see where you could have been better as a husband. And if you're married now, this is what you should start doing immediately. Work on those things now. Stop blaming her for everything, because it's just going to make things harder for you. You're never going to actually ever hear her heart. You're never going to truly be able to listen to what it is that she's trying to say, because you're going to be so blinded by the act and what took place, when that eventually has to die. Like for me, it was years ago. Can I sit here and act like it happened yesterday? The only way that would be the case is if I never forgave her, or I never forgave myself for the things that I did. So I would really encourage you to really look at yourself as the individual and say, like, hey, what could I have done better in this situation? Could I have been more loving, more caring, more supportive? Did I really support her goals, whether it be work goals, business goals, family goals, financial goals? How did I step up to the plate to do those things for her? And so every man, I can't say every man, but a lot of men will say, oh, I've done this and I've done that. Yeah, and I'm sure you have. And I'm not knocking that, because I believe you have, and I know I have too. But I know I could have done a lot more. I know I could have. So for her to step out, I don't blame her. It sucks because you never want that to happen to you. But that was how she felt she needed to cope, how she needed to deal with her problems. And yeah, I don't agree with anyone doing that at all. Like, so don't take this for a thing being like, oh, Dimitri's okay with, people cheating. Nope, I'm not. And it happened, but it's in the past. And so you got to let that go. So again, number one, you gotta focus on yourself. Worry about you, taking care of you. And two, the one thing that I really think about is God. He's, like I said, he's a huge part of my life. And he talks about in his word that we have to know how to forgive others. Otherwise, he won't be able to forgive us of our sins. If we can't allow ourselves to forgive someone for what they've done really bad, then God will not, he will not take the time to forgive us of the things that we've done really bad. The sin that was taking place in that situation was not technically committed against me, because I'm her husband, or at the time I was her husband. So yes, as her husband at the time, it happened to me, but I'm not the judge, right? God is the judge, and he's the one that the act was committed against. She committed the sin against him, and he's the one who judges those things. So I have to be able to look at that from that perspective and say, all right, Lord, I'm not going to not forgive her, because the last thing I want to do is not be forgiven for the things that I've done. And like I said, I have not been perfect in my life. Nobody has. Only one perfect person ever, and that's Jesus. And so for me, I have to do that. And again, you may not like the feeling of having to do that, but it is something that is required. It's something that takes a lot of sacrifice. It takes a lot of mental reshifting, refocus. And if you can't do that now, it's going to take a long time to figure out how to do it. So I would really focus on you and just focus on knowing that God is the bigger picture here, right? I'm trying to do everything I can to please Him and not have Him be displeased with the things that I do. So if forgiveness is the key to getting things in order for myself and getting myself healed up, then forgiveness it is. And I know, again, for some people, it might be a little bit hard, but the quicker you can start to learn how to do it, the faster you'll be able to heal up and move forward, right? Let her move forward in her life. You move forward in your life. And when you see her, don't be all frustrated and bitter and all that stuff, because your actions just let you know that you still haven't forgiven her. Even with the guy where everything happened in my life, he was my best friend at the time. And I've forgiven him many times. I've talked with him recently. We've had conversation. Not like I pick up the phone and call him, right? I forgave him, but doesn't mean we're going to kick it. Doesn't mean we're going to hang out, right? But I forgave him. So if I see him, he'll say, "What's up?" I say, "What's up?" We move on. That action behind it lets him know that I've forgiven him. So that's what's important. You can't just say it with your words, but you actually have to truly mean it by your actions. That when her name comes up, you don't get angry. When you see her, you don't get bitter. You just know how to be like, move on and don't talk negatively about her in any form or fashion, because it's not worth it. So I would encourage you, again, look at yourself, look inside. What could you have done better? In general, as a husband, we all have areas we can improve on. And yeah, it sucked. It definitely sucks. But she's got her own course and her own life to deal with too because of that. And just remember, if you can't forgive her, God will not forgive you. And that is one thing that I'm way more concerned about than anything else. So on that note, have a good day, you guys, and talk to you soon. Later.